too much this evening, and I'm probably going to get fired because of it. So Boarcontrol versus TingTing, then they're both 1-0. Boarcontrol beat Queen Sheep last week 3-1, and TingTing beat Stittler 3-2. So both players are very accomplished UK players. We'll see what classes they're going to be bringing this week as well, and seeing what interesting decks they might come from there. So Priest ban for Boarcontrol, TingTing has Priest ban too, and then we have Shaman Rogue, Druid left for Boarcontrol, and Druid Mage Rogue left for TingTing. Thoughts?
Kind of feels like throughout today we've been getting closer and closer, just kind of funneling down to what we'd expect. We've got ourselves here what are widely considered the 3 best decks in Jade Druid, Kazakus Priest, and Tempo Rogue. Obviously we don't know what the deck lists are, but I'm just assuming that those are the variants of Priest, Druid, and Rogue that are being brought from both players. And then it's +1. From Boarcontrol, we can clearly see the Shaman. Given the pretty poor results from the Control Shaman from Duncan in the last series, I would very much be imagining that it is a Evolved Shaman, more anti-aggro tech. And then from TingTing, I honestly couldn't tell you if it's Tempo Mage or the kind of Frostlit Chain of Control Mages we've seen.
Yeah, certainly will be interesting. I mean, the thing about this format and the fact it's a Swiss that is over the course of several weeks and you can change your decks every week makes it a very interesting competition. Of course, naturally you would want to bring the best decks to a Swiss format, right? But of course, with it changing each week and with you being able to see what your opponent has brought previously, that's when the tech decisions start to come in, and you have to make the decision of, do I just bring what is the best now? Do I bring what is the best last week? What's changed? You really need to be on top of the meta, which I would imagine most of these players are, because a lot of them are now committed to pretty much full-time playing Hearthstone in terms of what they actually play.
Absolutely. We've seen, I mean, even just in terms of, you could just listen to Boarcontrol. He was casting something with Lorinda earlier on in the week. Doing a little bit too well, I would say. Catching up on my heels. Yeah. In terms of being the dashingly handsome young UK caster.
We might have to do something about that, mightn't we? Yeah. Take him round back. Yeah. Oh, Boarcontrol's not coming home. But seriously, he was. We had him on the analyst desk as well for Prem final.
Right, of course, yeah, and he did a good job as well.
And if he doesn't qualify, well, unfortunately, Derek, you'll be out of a job. But no, but yeah, he will want to qualify. He doesn't want to be an analyst or a caster. He wants to be a player. He wants to be known. He's starting to stream now as well. But he is going up against the likes of TingTing, who is a name that seems to be rising through the ranks in UK Hearthstone.
Interesting mulligan there from TingTing in that he had Edwin in his starting hand. Obviously, when you're going first, you're much more likely to throw it away. When you're going second, pretty much an auto keep. But he did have the Shadow Step in hand, and any 0-mana spell in combination with Edwin kind of feels like a good way to get things going, especially against the Druid. And he's ended up with a really, really bad hand outside of that. You know, drawing patches is only icing on the disgusting cake this time.
Ugh.
I'm not going to say what the cake is made of, but it's not desirable.
It's like one that your nan would make and then bring to your birthday party, but no one eats it. You just thank her. Yeah,
and you just let it harden up even more.
Yeah. You don't even put it in the fridge.
I don't like marzipan, nan.
No, yeah, I feel like you've said that far too many times in your life. So I think I hit a nerve there, didn't I? I hit like a truesome story. But it's okay, as Boarcontrol massages his temples, which he does a lot. Boarcontrol is very animated in that he just rubs his face a lot.
Yeah. I bet his favourite card is Temple Enforcer. As he enforces his temples.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Frequently and vehemently.
So now for Boarcontrol, there isn't really much decision. It is more deciding where he goes and what his game plan is here. I guess the decision is, do I or don't I play Fandral? Is there the... what's better, having it on the board and having the body, or getting some form of effect later? I think he's right in thinking just getting it on the board now is correct.
I agree. Just get it out there. The stats are perfectly good here, leading you up into maybe Coin Behemoth, but to be honest, you would so much rather this Fandral had been a Maya Keeper to play for ramp, because then you can go 6, 7, 8, coin 10, and you've got your whole game plan mapped out perfectly. But here it's the point where it's especially sad in Druid, where you are simply 1 mana behind every single turn. Maybe if he falls far enough behind, he'll go for a coin Jade Behemoth. You can obviously then follow up with Spreading Plague, but Spreading Plague is not looking to be particularly good quite yet.
I always love the Hearthstone nod. The Hearthstone nod every player does when they're like, oh yes, I knew they had that.
Yep, they've got it.
Absolutely, that was coming.
Here
yes,
comes
okay,
Edwin.
expected. But actually, this Fandral isn't going to be killed, and now we have the shock face from Boarcontrol of saying, oh, well, you didn't kill it. So now he can plonk it behind Jade Behemoth, if you would like, just to keep it alive. No way for TingTing to kill it if he does do that. Except, of course, the Varspine Slayer, but it doesn't feel great using a Varspine Slayer onto a 3-1. I guess it depends how worried you are about Nourish.
You'd Slayer the Jade Behemoth in that instance then, wouldn't you? And then kill it off. Probably be the better play.
That might work. Yes, I didn't really think about that one, did I? Oh! Glad you're here to correct me.
No worries, mate. But whether or not he'll even go for it is the question. Obviously, as you said, it protects the Fandral. The effect is really not looking too relevant at the moment because you're 2 turns away from the Malfurion, sorry. I think probably we're looking at coin Jade Behemoth, and then you follow up with Fandral Hero, or with Jade Spirit and Hero Power on the following turn. But we could see Jade Spirit Hero Power on this turn. You just want to make sure that you can curve out properly over the next few turns. But because you've got turn 6 as Jade Spirit Hero Power, this still works out pretty decently well. You're ramping up your Jades and you're setting up for 7-8 and something into 10.
And I think TingTing will be very happy that there wasn't a Nourish there as well. It's always awful keeping Fandral on the board into a turn 5 because Nourish can be so detrimental. And I think TingTing would have been expecting the worst, but he will now be somewhat relieved that that hasn't happened. So, a couple of options for him. Of course, he can do the play we were discussing, the backstab into the Varspine Slayer, into then killing everything off the board.
Yep.
It does leave a 3/4 body, which looks like the optimal play. The alternative was maybe playing a Hydra, but I don't really like that.
Yeah, the 3-1 attacking into the Hydra is just so bad, you're right. I mean, I was thinking killing the 3-6 with the Varspine is really not that good. You'd much rather save it for something a bit bigger. But if the Jades are getting to the point where they're that big, maybe you've lost anyway, and you need to make sure you've got a slightly clearer board for going into Hydra.
So now you're completely... that definitely came through my mic as well.
Okay.
The Jade Spirit plus Hero Power, as you said, is decent here. The audio guy just gave me the weirdest look in the world. Like, no, it didn't. Well, there was a very loud burp that I heard, and I thought it might have come.
Thanks for the name and shame.
That's okay. I didn't actually say it was you, but now you've admitted to it.
Okay.
That could have been a burp from anywhere in the studio, really, couldn't it?
I'm looking at you, production.
Yeah.
You disgusting louts.
You filthy animals.
Keep the change. Was that what we were going for? Yeah, nice. Okay, cool.
Nice Home Alone reference.
I got that one. That is before my time, but I've still seen it.
How old are you?
21. That's like an early 90s thing, isn't it?
What?
Home Alone.
Yeah. It's also like an early 2000s meme as well.
Really?
21. You don't know that one? Never mind. Never mind.
I can't tell if I'm being bamboozled.
You might be.
I'll never tell.
But I can't remember the exact specifics of the meme. It's something like where some kid goes, what's 9 plus 10? And he says 21. Is that right? Or is that a different number? I'm so old nowadays.
About here. Oh no, I think I might have seen that meme actually.
I don't know. I don't blummin' know anymore. I've lost the plot. Let's get back to some Hearthstone action. As TingTing has regained control of the board, and it is just a case for Boarcontrol of, well, trying to stop this bombardment of temponess from the Tempo Rogue.
You're probably going with Swipe here over Malfurion. Maybe if you go for Spiders, it's worth it. Or maybe if you just go for the Scarabs, you can follow up with a more effective swipe because everything's been damaged by the Scarabs at least. And, you know, going for the Spiders, you are so vulnerable to things like Backstab and SI. And the fact that there's a 2-attack weapon, to be honest, I'm not sure I like this play. Everything dies off so easily, and it gives your opponent, they can kill it off without spending any mana, and as we see here, develop a nice big minion.
Big minions usually are good things against Druid as well, because Druid does typically struggle to remove big things.
Natural more.
So as I do every series, I will comment on the backgrounds of each player. TingTing does have the Hearthstone pillow, so credit to him. Nicely placed just to be in the bottom right of the webcam, so everyone can see that he does have it. Boarcontrol, however, seems to have a CD collection. Not many people have those nowadays.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
They look like CDs.
Thanks for pointing out where that was for me.
Or are they DVDs?
I think they're CDs. CDs are a bit squarer.
Yeah. in plastic cases as well, like the hard plastic, not soft plastic.
Thanks for educating me, Dad.
You are quite right. We will talk about recycling later and make sure that you are on the ball when it comes to that.
So here, you do want to go for the Medivh, obviously, but it's just too important to ramp up into the Ultimate Infestation as quickly as possible. Taking the correct line of play, once again we see players not being greedy and trying to get the Ultimate Infestation while Atiesh is in play, just making sure you stay ahead on the board, because after you play Ultimate Infestation, it's pretty hard to lose. You can follow up with Spreading Plague if they go wide on the board, and you're at such a high health total anyway, you should be staying in a good spot after you summon that 5/5, deal the 5 damage, gain the 5 armor, draw the 5 cards.
Are you breathing?
Fine.
Alright, so Anaconda now.
Oh,
Hydra. That's the better.
That's a bit more like it.
Yeah, a little bit like it. Love that, but Boarcontrol will not. We were saying how Druid does struggle to deal with big minions. Yes, okay, it can deal with the Bone Mare, but then you're still facing 13 damage. Okay, it's not detrimental right now, and you are going to be drawing into potential answers as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're really looking at going for Plague into maybe double Mark of the Lotus if you can get that, or just summoning as many minions as you can while you play the Spreading Plague, and then hoping that's enough of a defense to kill off your opponent. Obviously, the Bittertide Hydra on the board means that, you know, you're only at 17 health at the moment. Any attack into the Infestation, into the Spreading Plague after that comes down will hopefully be bringing the Rogue down to lethal potentials for Boarcontrol at least, but I don't know if I see that coming, to be honest.
I mean, Spreading Plague can certainly be very awkward for TingTing. You're completely right. Like, just all those pesky little minions hitting into the Hydra a little bit later. But he does have that charge potential with Hello Leroy. There we go. You can ring the bell.
There it is.
Leroy. It's not. It's Leroy Jenkins.
There we go.
Drawing maybe something like a Shadow Step, of course, would be good for TingTing in this situation.
The main thing for TingTing here is he's in a pretty good spot. He's got a nice big board. He's got burst damage in hand with Leroy. He's really just vulnerable to Spreading Plague. So the playing out here of the Southsea deckhand, when you have so much mana spare in the coming turns, I just don't know if I like it. You're dealing 2 damage now, but an extra 1/5 that you have to break through. I think it's just a pretty detrimental line of play to take.
Agreed. I don't know whether it's a situation of he wasn't expecting it. I mean, not only are you punished by the Galactic Crawler, but now this is a very big board that you're going to struggle to get through.
I mean, you have to be expecting it. You're not even in so bad of a position where if it comes down, you lose on the spot. With some good top decks, you could close out the game, especially when you can push Leroy Jenkins' Shadow Step. But there's just way too much taunt in the way now.
I mean, even if it was just the 3 taunts, though, realistically...
Fair enough.
Maybe that's what TingTing was thinking. He was thinking 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter. If he's got it, I probably lose this game. Because now he can't push through all these taunts. He can maybe adapt and go for a taunt himself, which would help because it will mean that Boarcontrol can't push all that damage into the Hydra. But I guess with the swipe available as well, there is more than enough damage available to finish this game off.
Yeah, I think this is going to Boar, and I think it's mostly pretty well deserved. I agreed with Boar's play pretty much consistently along the way here, from making sure he ramped up into Ultimate Infestation as quickly as possible. But from TingTing as well, like off the mulligan, throwing away the Edwin Van Cleef, it's a bit... Obviously you're going first, but you had a 0 mana spell in hand in Shadow Step. I think you are really looking on turn 4, maybe turn 5, to play out a pretty substantial 8-8 or 10-10 Edwin with any decent draw.
And there we see the damage that Spreading Plague still has.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter, 5 mana, 6 mana, it is still being played regularly. It's still absolutely disgusting card when put in the right situation. Very difficult to play against when you're playing any sort of aggressive or token-based variant deck. And the Tempo Rogue, unfortunately, just wasn't able to get through. If there wasn't the Spreading Plague, then there was the potential of that Leroy into Shadow Step into Leroy again that might have been able to finish the game. But hindsight says whatever that's saying and all that stuff. TingTing has Druid, Mage and Rogue left, but Boarcontrol now just moves into his Rogue and his Shaman. Now, what do you know of these two players then, Derek? Because, I mean, Boarcontrol, as I was mentioning earlier, really wants to be pushing himself as one of these top UK players, right? But for TingTing, he's kind of been there or thereabouts, but he hasn't maybe had the same success as Boarcontrol. Do we expect either of these players to be able to break into maybe like the HCS kind of events at some point?
I think if it is going to be either of these two players, it's definitely looking to be Boarcontrol first, at least. You know, having already won the first season of the ESL Premiership really cemented him as in the top tier of UK players. And he's been putting the work in recently, streaming all the time, you know, competing where possible. And just from TingTing there, I think it was small, I would say, tactical errors and slightly game plan decisions I didn't agree with. Whereas from Boarcontrol, I felt it was just absolutely on point all the way through. And that's just the kind of player Boarcontrol is. He's just one of the guys who plays the good stuff, doesn't make mistakes with it, and gets results.
And the main difference I've seen, I mean, just from observing their player webcams, is Boarcontrol is writing down a lot of things, and he's talking to himself, and he's having these internal discussions, whereas TingTing seems to be just playing the game, probably has deck tracker up, and is just doing like he would do on ladder. Boarcontrol takes this a lot more seriously than a lot of other people, and will be thinking ahead far too many turns than the usual player would be thinking.
Yep, and we can see it coming into play there. As the Druid, you always have to be planning out your mana every turn, making sure you can get to ultimate infestation nice and easily, and he did exactly that. So going into this game, nice turn 1 play from Boarcontrol. I think he might have even kept the Valspine Slayer off the mulligan. Maybe I'm slightly wrong in that assumption, but he appreciates how important of a card it is in this matchup, because things are fairly likely to stay even in the early few turns unless a giant Edwin comes down. But it's around turn 5 when the Scalebanes and Hydras come down that things can really start to go out of shape for you unless you find the Valspines.
So TingTing opting not to play the Swashbuckler there, and maybe hoping to keep the patches in deck just in case he draws Kalaseth, potentially.
Yep. Or Captain.
Or the Captain. We do see a lot of people reluctant to play Swashbuckler on 1 now. For Boarcontrol, slightly different, being on turn 1, not having the options of playing something like a Firefly. So of course he was going to play it. Obviously, no crabs in either deck because Kalaseth, we got through this last week.
Very well spotted.
Yep.
Nice spot as well from Boarcontrol there, going face, realizing any buff effects that come down from the Rogue are really just going to be damage in cold blood. You're not really going to be buffing up this minion quite yet, and so even if weapon coin Swashbuckler comes down to kill off all your minions, you can finish it off with the weapon on the following turn. And TingTing ends up making the trade here, which is just an extra 1 damage for Boarcontrol, which, given the caliber of his hand with Headcrack in there, every point of damage is really going to matter. So, good technical play again there.
And I think this is the first time in an expansion we've seen Tempo Rogue survive. Tempo Rogue is always good after every expansion. I don't know why, but it always just shows up, someone makes it, it works for a week, and then there's a counter to it. But why do you think it is that it has survived? What is it so good? Is it the potential of Kalaseth into Shadow Step, into Kalaseth?
For me, it's clearly not just Kalaseth, because we're seeing a fair few decks that omit Kalaseth in preference of Viscerate and Galactic Crawlers, because it helps tech against the mirror and gives you a little bit of extra burst potential. I think what it mainly is kind of that Rogue was fairly weak for a while, so Blizzard were introducing pretty good cards consistently, like the Valspine Slayer we see. You know, the Swashbuckler's a very good card. Obviously, Edwin Van Cleef, as ever, is insanely powerful, and it's kind of reached that point where it's all come together to make a really powerful deck. As we saw with Priest back in the day, for so long it was just such a rubbish class, wasn't really run in any tournaments, and then Mean Streets of Gadgetzan hit, and it all just kind of fell together.
It is great to see that Tempo Rogue has shone so much. I mean, ladder is full of it at the moment, and of course it's being shown in tournaments as well that it's a very popular go-to deck. Honestly, we needed something that could compete with Priest, and I think Tempo Rogue is close to as dominant as Priest is at the moment, in my opinion anyway. And I think that's what you need. You can't just have one deck that is just the best.
So going into this turn though, TingTing taking a long time to consider it, and ends up, bringing down the Tarkari Beer here down to 2 health, which does indicate he's looking to go for SI7 Agent on the following turn, which is pretty good. But it does allow the opportunity for Boarcontrol to trade it in here, be that with Backstab and the weapon, or with the Cold Blood. And now that the Prince Kalaseth has been picked up as well, this turn, which was looking very poor for Boarcontrol, is looking really good all of a sudden.
Certainly going to help for the rest of the matchup having Kalaseth come down now. Clearly in the mirror, getting colours of first obviously is important.
Yep.
I don't think we really need to dwell too much on that, but what Boarcontrol is trying to work out now is how he goes about this turn. Does he need to take this 5-4 off the board? Does he want to leave the Tar Creeper to potentially do the job for him rather than waste the backstab? Because the backstab he's going to want to use in conjunction with the Valspine Slayer potentially next turn. So that is going to be the option for him. He's going to keep that back just in case he needs to use it to remove anything significant.
I think this is probably the better play because Tar Creeper obviously becomes more potent when you leave it up and let your opponent deal with it and trade into it. And as you said, we're expecting to see something fairly big come down with the Valspine Slayer. Having said that, it is turn 4 here, which is Rogue's weak spot in this deck. It's kind of few options. The double Naga Corsair here we see from TingTing is doing a good job of kind of smoothing over that weakness in the deck. But very often we see only Barnes in the deck there, or
the Prince sometimes as well.
Yeah, Prince Valinar as well. There are some fairly weak options. It's really turn 5 where it amps up the power. But even so, I think that the potential for Valspine Slayer on this turn could be really, really good.
Boarcontrol knew that one was coming though.
He knew that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he knew it was definitely coming. But I think keeping the backstab was correct anyway, not only because you need something to work with the Vast... Well, okay, there's another backstab, just in case. I hate it when Hearthstone does that, just as I'm making a point.
God damn it.
God damn it, Hearthstone.
You don't get it.
My point's irrelevant now. Doesn't matter.
Kel Surprise.
Doesn't matter. I'm going to go home. You want to finish it off?
All right, mate. Don't worry, I'll wrap it up.
All right, cheers.
Wow, he's actually taking his headset off. He's actually walking out the gate. What is that hand gesture he's making to me as he leaves the door?
Just kidding.
Only banter.
Oh. It was a correct use of the banter bell, but
thanks.
It still felt slightly tasteless.
Tasteless?
A little bit like...
Keep it PG.
Yeah. Crackers.
Crackers?
Yeah, they're tasteless.
Like a Christmas cracker?
No, like a cracker.
Oh, right, as in they have no taste?
Yeah. Yeah, they're tasteless.
Right.
Unless you put butter on them with Marmite.
Oh, that's a good combo. That was a lunchbox classic in your tin foil.
Oh, love a bit of Marmite. Meanwhile, whilst we discuss Marmite products, Boarcontrol has eventually used the backstab into Valspine Slayer, which was what we expected. And now we can see TingTing could, if he was really desperate, really wanted to gain control back, he could Shadow Step his Elemental here and then use a Valspine Slayer. I hate it. I don't like it.
Probably not worth it.
No.
I would say this is not all too important to remove the minion here. It's not going into Bone Mare turn, and it's only a 3-4. Probably more worth it to play the Naga Corsair. Maybe with the Swashbuckler, you could argue that it's worth saving that to go in combination with the Valspine Slayer on the next turn, especially because if your board is cleared, the Shadow Step is doing nothing. Does opt to save it here, which I think is probably for the best. It was just dying to the hero power anyway.
If you are just joining us, no, this isn't the Trinity series. Boarcontrol is not talking to his teammates. He's talking to himself.
That's right.
He does that a lot. He's not cheating.
I think it's called streaming.
No, he's not streaming.
Well, no, when he does stream.
Yeah, he does, yeah. But I don't think he's streaming right now.
No, I don't think
I think he always does this. He just talks to himself a lot. Same as Hello Leroy, actually. Both players do.
Yeah.
They like to have that discussion with him, which I think is good.
I mean,
saying it out loud is important. It's like driving. When you say it out loud, is actually technically safer. You're safer on the road if you say what you see. Keeps you more alert if you say like, oh, this is a 30.
I didn't know that. I thought
going into a 40.
I thought you meant instead of driving, just saying what you
number
mean
4,
to
please.
do.
Yeah. Cashier number 3, please. So now Boarcontrol is... are you right?
Yeah, just wondering where the banter is going. I think the banter bus has flown off the cliff.
The banter bus left a long time ago. The bell is completely out of the window.
Stop. Yeah.
Just like Friday night. As Boarcontrol now, unfortunately, doesn't have the Valspine still. It would be nice if he could be able to kill off this Naga Corsair, but the Scalebane is such an impactful card.
Taking the value trades here, giving a target for the Scalebane to give the buff to. I like this a lot. You could consider it's worth killing off the Naga Corsair, maybe because of Captain or something like that. But it really doesn't get too much bigger. The difference between a 6-5 and a 5-4 here isn't too great, and you make another big threat that your opponent really has to find a way to deal with, and a threat that the Naga Corsair dies to if it attacks into.
Hopefully something big from the Swashbuckler here. Doomerang is not big, unfortunately.
Throw your weapon at a minion, it deals its damage, then returns to your hand.
The only thing that it's good for is you basically can play your hero power for 1 mana rather than 2, but you're actually playing it for 2 anyway because you're using 1 mana and then you play it again, so you play it for 2, so it does nothing.
Well said, I think.
Nope, not really.
Right.
I started saying it faster because it was just irrelevant, really.
I mean, people kind of got excited about the card when it was first announced, thinking, oh, okay, the combination with Shadowblade will definitely make it worth it. You can make yourself invincible so many times. It's definitely not there quite yet, so that's really not what TingTing was looking for. Pretty underwhelming rolls with the swashbuckle type effect so far. The head crack, however, not particularly good for board control either. If he'd kept strong board control, okay, throughout the game, then
there we go.
Put those eyebrows down, sheath those bad boys.
Okay, sorry.
It might have been a bit more useful to capitalize on that board control, but because it's been very even throughout, really hasn't been able to do that. But okay, I think we might be starting to see the effect of Keleseth being played by board control starting to actually become apparent.
Yeah, I might throw a head crack or 2 in here as well. And by 2, I mean just 1, because you only play it once every turn. But
Right, yeah.
I mean across the next couple of turns. And you said it as soon as he got it at the start of the game. You said these head cracks may come into effect.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They may be very important, this constant 2 damage that's available.
In my incredibly vague, non-committal statement, turned out to be true.
It's nice when that happens, isn't it?
So I'm thinking cards are going to be played here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think someone might win.
A bold statement.
So TingTing does have Leroy and Shadow Step, so he does have that 12 burst damage at some point, which he will be well aware of, but unfortunately he doesn't really have the board. Of course, he does have Vastbind Slayer now that he can use to take out the South Sea Captain, trade in with his own Vastbind Slayer that's already on the board, and Bish Bash Bosh, you have the board once again, and you have that potential to be pushing, what, 7 damage next turn, plus a 12. It's 19. Plus you have a deck count, that's 21. You're almost there.
You're really getting there, but again, it's just about securing board control, which is why I like using the Shadow Step on the Vastbind here. You've now got 2 of them, so you're so likely to have board control that you will be able to get the damage with just your Vastbind and then finish off your opponent with the Leroy after the fact.
I'm glad you like it.
I think this is a more secure game plan. You don't need to run the risk of your opponent getting Bone Mare or Tark Reaper to lock out the Leroy burst potential. Now with an added Vastbind Slayer in hand, you can kill the next big minion that comes down, which might just be the final push from your opponent.
And it's good to see TingTing making these decisions now. As you said, there were maybe a few technical errors in the first game. Certainly some decisions that he struggled with, but making that play is certainly not an easy one, because I think naturally you lean towards instant damage, and having 12 damage in hand can be very easy to keep. But TingTing just favouring being able to use these Vastbind Slayers to keep the board. And board control is running out of cards as well, which TingTing will be well aware of.
Yeah, this is why I like it so much, because in this instance, imagine you just had Leroy Jenkins and Shadow Step and no Vastbind instead. You'd be in so much of a worse position because you're nowhere near actually killing your opponent. Whereas with this line of play, you've got the board, it's looking like you'll be able to keep it for a while, and then Leroy can just close out the game if it looks like your opponent is close to coming back. Yeah,
for board control, I guess Bone Mare is the only chance of getting back into this game. Maybe he might be running, no, probably not running Valera. So Flame Elemental into Bone Mare would be certainly a way of combating this.
I mean, there are things he could top deck. Cairn as a 5/6 would be very powerful, very often run in this deck, and it would be the king of board control as it has been for the longest time. Any top deck here is obviously better than TingTing's top deck because of the Prince Keleseth buff. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough, because even though it's looking slightly more even now, there's still another top deck to come from TingTing, and the Leroy on its own could do a good job of clearing this up. Oof.
Yeah, you may use the Leroy as a removal here. Of course, you've got your hero power and a Doomerang just to deal with those 1/1s if needs to be, but I mean, you can use your Flame Elementals and Firefly if you want as well. So I like using this just as removal. Keep the board control that you do have, and keep the question asked of, do you have a decent top deck board control? I like the board control kept the Flame Elemental back, clearly for the reason of Bone Mare.
Yes.
He knows that is one of his main outs.
Yep.
But there is the head crack every turn. That is something that TingTing is going to have to worry about eventually.
So it's 3 damage potential every turn. Obviously, there does have to be a combo, but it's so likely that something else outside of the Flame Elemental will come down each turn. I don't think the damage from Headcrack will close out the game, because just look, they're basically the same health total, and there's 6 damage coming in each turn from TingTing, only 3 from Boarcontrol. Unless something changes fairly drastically, it's not going to work out.
Have we seen both Fastbind Slayers from Boarcontrol? I think we may have. If there is a second one, or if we've not seen a second one, then that might be able to change things. Zarl?
It's pretty good if you can draw a card as well. Stealth's not very good. You can use it to, well, just get the damage in, stealth it here, but maybe you're looking to save that for a Leroy top deck, something like that, but I guess that's pretty out there.
Yeah, very out there. I think you have to take the initiative now rather than later and say, how do I win this game? And the answer is immediately answering this board as quick as possible. And now Boarcontrol is going to be praying that nothing significant is drawn from TingTing. If TingTing hits one of his Bone Mares, then this is probably game over as well. Cold Blood doesn't quite get him there, but that is extra damage.
So he has to, if he wants to combo, he has to backstab or throw his Doomerang at a friendly minion. Because both of those spells can only target minions, not the face. I do know the difference. But I guess it's not too bad. The difference between a 3-4 and a 3-3 doesn't make too much difference here. It's just making sure the Cold Blood sticks and connects to face. The fact that there's the stealth minion there means it's very likely to not connect to face twice, but it does kind of deny the point of the stealth on your opponent's minion, because they're going to be very scared to actually connect that to face. They're much more likely to kill off the cold-blooded minion.
And in that state, I think you may be tempted to put it on your elemental here, because
they have to hero power it down.
They would have to hero power it down. Otherwise, they're putting their 4-3 into it, and then they're leaving a 3-4 on the board. So I wouldn't mind if Doomerang, well, hit face, then Doomerang onto your own 3-4, then play a cold blood.
Yeah.
And then re-equip a weapon.
I mean, you're afraid of charges, but I guess there's not all too much. That's a pretty cool animation on Doomerang.
Yeah, you don't get to see it very often.
Yeah.
Cherish these moments, children. And parents. Mothers, in particular.
Thanks, Mum. Whoa, okay.
Hello, Leroy.
This changes things. And here comes the point of going with the stealth. It was to connect to face, but it's also just to get the Bone Mare on board. You've seen both Valspine Slayers from your opponent, and a Leroy, actually. So in terms of surprise damage coming through, there's really not all too much. I guess you're just thinking about how can Bone Mare mess me up here.
Are you thinking of going down to 1 HP if you are Boarcontrol?
That's pretty gnarly.
It's pretty rad, I'd say. Sending this damage to face, which actually you don't even need to necessarily. You want to set up for lethal next turn.
So if you die to Bone Mare either way, if you attack in or don't, right? Because if you attack in to the 5-1, they can Bone Mare the 3-3 up to 7 damage and then attack you in the face. So yeah, this is the only way I think you can play around Bone Mare top deck. I
think you take it.
Because now there's nothing to buff. I think this is probably the safest play. Still sets up lethal on the following
Eviscerate or bust now for TingTing. Swashbuckler, SI7 agent of all things. We'll finish this game off, unfortunately, for Boarcontrol.
Of course the BM comes in. And of course Boarcontrol will know that he had it.
Yeah. No nods though, just starting to rub those facial features again. This time it is the bridge of the nose.
Moving in, the temples is step 1. This is
a nice place to massage, actually. Just here, I'm gonna do a little bridge massage. Let's all get there. Let's all do that for Boarcontrol. It's a shame. If he hadn't have taken that 5 damage, would he have won?
I'm
fairly certain he would have.
I don't know, because I think he could have attacked in anyway. Maybe not. It was a tough play. I'll have to look back.
We'll look back at that one. I don't know how much health Zara had in the end, but I think maybe not taking it could have survived. I don't know. We will see. We will have a look back. I love rewatching games, actually. Anyway, why did you laugh?
Nothing.
You laughed like I don't...
No, I like it too. Yeah, it was just an interesting way to send it off.
Oh, okay.
Please carry on.
Well, so we have Shaman and Rogue left for Boarcontrol, and we have Druid and Mage left for TingTing, all tied up 1-1 here, which is what this series deserves, because these are two fantastic players who, of course, are going to be playing to go 2-0 up in this Swiss format. What's your thoughts on this Swiss format, Derek?
Well, I think it's a pretty good way to get make sure that the player who's winning the most is going to be making it through, because we've seen some pretty disgusting top deck lethals to close out the games a couple of times today, with Leroy or SI7 Agent being top decked for Toast Monster and for TingTing here. There's nothing really you can do about that. So making sure if you bring a game plan that works, it might not work out every time, but eventually you'll get a positive win rate and hopefully make you through to the top 8 finals.
Yeah, which is where we did not see Boarcontrol last season.
Correct.
Which maybe was unexpected after, of course, he was the Season 1 champion of the ESL Premiership, then losing in the final to his teammate Jean-Bray in Season 2. But we move into game number 3, Shaman versus Druid. Excuse me.
Pretty good hand to get things going with as the Shaman. Great game knowledge as well there from Boarcontrol. Again, keeping a slightly weird pick off the mulligan in Doppelgangster. Few matchups where you keep a 5-drop. It's pretty much maybe Valspine Slayer in the Rogue, Raza in Priest, and the Doppelgangster against certain matchups. And we can see it's going to work out here with Evolve available on turn 5, even overloading himself here to perfectly lead into Primal Fin Totem, to lead into Jade Lightning. It's all working out beautifully.
It's almost like he planned it.
Oh, almost.
That nose bridge rub came off.
Worked its magic.
I do love a good facial massage. No, I said massage.
Well done.
Yes.
Definitely will not be clipping that one.
No, stop it. Goodness sake, I can't take you anywhere.
So for TingTing, if he goes for the Nourish for ramp, which you're definitely more incentivized to do now that you've picked up the second Nourish, you can't quite fit in the swipe. You're going to be working with only 3 mana. So maybe you go Nourish and Wrath to take out the Primal Fin, try and give you the highest chance of getting up to the mana that you can play Ultimate Infestation at, and then hopefully drawing it with the second Nourish, but instead making a more proactive board approach
Against
Boarcontrol.
And I think it's a good move. I mean, what else are you going to be silencing? Potentially maybe something that comes from the Doppelgangster into Evolve.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of totems you'd like to silence. I think I would have preferred the Nourish for ramp there.
I don't mind it. I think taking control here and getting the board and being able to answer the questions that are being put, rather than allow the Shaman to get out of control and have a load of totems and not being able to clear it. I don't mind it either way.
You like it both ways? Spreading Plague's a pretty good way to sort things out though here.
Yes, it is. I'm glad it came off the top. To shut that immediately down. Simmer down.
Okay, I'm simmering. I'm simmering.
You simmering?
Yep. A gentle boil.
I'm going to give you a 20-second timeout.
Okay.
Starting now. So, whilst he's finally shutting up, I finally get to talk to you guys myself. It's been a great day. As TingTing now considering what to do with his Wrath here. Does he put it into the 0-3? Does he kill a pirate? Does he just hero power? Goes for the Jade Idol in the end. What do you think about that, Derek?
It's a lot harder without me in it, mate. Plays the Jade Idol. We can see that, you idiot.
Oh darn. I was saying what was happening on the screen. Well, Boarcontrol is now going to pull the trigger and he is going to evolve everything here. What can he get? Can he get anything?
Praying for no Doomsayer. Gets some weird outcomes. Lorewalker Cho is pretty good here for the Shaman. It's mostly spells that are going to be answering this as the Druid. But again, just another point to Boarcontrol's favour. He set it up this way. On the turn before this, he had the choice to go for Jade Lightning. It worked out pretty well against the Spellbreaker, but he went as wide on the board as he could, and he's given himself not only the 6 drops here, but a whole bunch of other stuff to go on with it. The Public Defender protecting the rest of his board. And here, does it have to be Spreading Plague? Are you that afraid of Bloodlust?
Yes. I think I personally would be. I think Spreading Plague comes down here. I don't think you mind about giving a Spreading Plague away to your opponent either. Because realistically, what value is Boarcontrol going to get out of a Spreading Plague? Very little.
Fair.
What are the alternatives, though, apart from Spreading Plague? Jade Behemoth, perhaps? I just don't like it. I don't know if you want to give away a Wrath, though.
Yeah. I definitely agree with the hero power, because you're only taking out a 2-3 anyway. It's not getting through one of the Scarabs on its own. But now a really interesting point from Boarcontrol. The Flame Tongue Totem would be really nice here. It's not worth Jade Lightning one of your own minions, but it's something worth thinking about, because getting a space on the board here would be so good.
Yeah, you don't want to give a Jade Lightning away.
I guess so. It's good against one of the enemy Scarabs as well, and you can do a good job of clearing them up anyway. But
I think if Cho wasn't on the board, then it's something that you maybe even consider more.
That's fair.
But then giving your opponent a Jade Lightning.
Yeah, maybe you don't go Jade Lightning. It's pretty sketchy. I guess you're in a good enough position anyway.
Pretty sketchy. Love that.
Thanks.
With lingo.
Yeah.
I remember that takes me right back to year 9, that does. Oh, mate, that was well sketchy.
It was sketchy. These Scarabs is butters. That's a my year 9 thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a few... Well, I was in year... I finished school by then.
Apparently they say uckers now.
Uckers?
Uckers. That means butters. Uckers badders.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Do you have a contact that's a teacher that lets you know with these things?
No.
You have... Okay.
I keep up with
Just
the South London rap scene, fam.
That's good.
I don't.
No.
Obviously.
You don't strike me as a rapping type. Although, do you know who does strike me as a rapping type? The rest of the UK players, because they all do it. They've all made a rap here, there, and everywhere, haven't they?
Yeah.
Has Boarcontrol done a rap? No, Scoundrel did a rap for Boarcontrol.
Yeah, that's right.
This to sell out the extreme of pushing Boarcontrol for him. And in the end, it didn't work. Boarcontrol didn't get onto the team for Global Games.
Hopefully, if there's a next time, he'll get on there.
Yeah, it would be nice. I think Boarcontrol deserves it. But now TingTing has managed to survive by plonking all those taunts in the way. So options for him. Aya Blackpaw, of course, is always a good thing, but you do have Swipe plus Wrath to try and deal with some of this board. But again, you're giving away the Swipe and the Wrath. If the Cho wasn't there, this all becomes a little bit more comfortable for TingTing.
Absolutely. But then again, it's weird for Boarcontrol as well. Like, he's still struggling to find room to put down the Flame Tongue Totem. He's, you know, doesn't want to play any spells outside of that, because giving a Jade Lightning to his opponent would be really bad. Bloodlust, though, if it allows you to clear off the board basically completely, it's similar to giving the Druid giving Spreading Plague to his opponent. It's a high-value spell, but if in the wrong circumstances, it's useless. Bloodlust could be the same here, which is why Boarcontrol is doing some very quick maths.
Yeah, he's just counting up what's the best way to clear. Just from my quick calculations, I don't think there is a lethal possibility because of all the taunts that are in the way, but certainly the first thing you count is always how much damage can I push to the face. Do I want to give this Bloodlust away? Are there any other options that are better? But I think Bloodlusting and using these little pesky minions to clear off some of the smaller, some of the bigger things, maybe a potential. But there is also the question for Boarcontrol of, do I want to save this Bloodlust to actually use as a lethal opportunity a little bit later? Yeah, clearly my opponent is struggling to deal with this board at the moment, especially with Lorca Cho being on the board. I can be patient here.
And he's clearly figured out that he can do a remarkably good job of clearing off the board anyway. He's attacked with everything other than the Public Defender and Cho, which is why he plays the Flame Tongue in between them. Nicely done. Going for a very aggressive game plan still, hopefully setting up for, once again, that Bloodlust to just close out the game. And, I mean, even if TingTing here does go for the Swipe off the top, you are clearing up a big amount of the board, which probably makes it worth it. You're then giving your opponent a Swipe, and although you're denying damage from Bloodlust, you're giving them more burst potential there.
He doesn't have to give them a Swipe, right? He can just run into the Public Defender, then kill off Cho. Then he has Swipe and Wrath to follow up. You can get rid of the 7-4 and the 2-1. With the hero power as well, you can get rid of the 5-5. So it's not looking too awful. You could combine that with Fandral to draw as well. So that allows you to deal with the 7-4, the 4-1, and the 5-5, just leaving a 5-3 on the board, which would then be a 7-3, because you'd still have, of course, the Flame Tongue Totem there.
You are, however, then developing a fairly wide board here, which means that the Spreading Plague might start to get value for Boarcontrol. Something to consider.
And consider I shall. Yeah, and this is exactly what... Yeah, this is the play I was thinking about. Yes, okay, there's still 7 damage left, but is TingTing that worried about it. Oh, look at the amount of damage.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm actually thinking of counting up. We've got 7 plus the 6 is 13. Then you can do 8 on the following turn, brings you up to 21. You're still not quite there, even with the Bloodlust and double Jade Lightning. So it's going to have to be clean up on this turn. You do have to keep board control for the moment, at least. Ooh.
Shame that patch is doesn't fall next to the Flame Tongue Totem.
Yeah. But still, you know, Boarcontrol is keeping up his own board development here. He's doing a good job of getting the damage into face while keeping a wide board. He is afraid of Spreading Plague, but obviously you've already seen one. He's also afraid of that. Always.
Just when you think you're safe, Ultimate Infestation comes. What's wrong with him? Is he alright?
He smells it coming.
No, I think he feels like it was a bad play. Usually when Boarcontrol reacts like that, he's thought over his play and he thinks he's a stupid idiot.
Yeah, fair enough.
No one would say that about him, of course, though. I think he's a very intelligent player.
I would be inclined to agree.
One of the best players in the UK, to be honest. I mean,
oh yeah, undeniable.
Certainly in the Premiership, he has been one of the better players. Now we have the likes of George C as well. That does kind of ramp up the competition. But the Premiership certainly is getting better and better every season in terms of competition. And the players are going to be rewarded with 8 of them being invited to a live finals as well, rather than just the 4.
That's right.
So that all paid expenses trip to Leicester. Oh, baby.
The Jewel of the North.
I must say, the events that we hold at our studio in Leicester, I do prefer rather than the big expo events.
Right.
Like MCM and stuff like that. I just think it's a nicer environment. You get the whole tavern feel, you know?
Yeah.
The music playing.
It feels more like what the UK ESL Premiership is going for, just kind of like a close-knit community as well as good players.
Yeah.
But this is don't want to call it last-ditch attempt from Boarcontrol, but certainly a big push as he starts to run out of effective ways to stick on the board to try and get a Bloodlust lethal on the following turn. But TingTing is going to realize that. This kind of play really smells of a Bloodlust, and he's got some great ways to deny that. If he can go for Swipe and still keep 4 minions on board, he could go Swipe into Mind Control tech and then clear up the rest with his minions and Wrath. It's looking very good for the Druid all of a sudden.
What would Bloodlust smell like as a card?
Don't know. Iron? Like
like blood.
Like blood, yeah.
But lusty blood. It's like somewhat sensual.
The sequel to 50 Shades.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. I think we're onto something here, Derek. You should just write a new novel. Bloodlust. The smelling of.
It could be like a Twilight fanfiction.
Ah, yes.
We
should ask a vampire. They all know what blood smells like. Do you know one?
No.
Ah. Shame. And yeah, TingTing has smelt Bloodlust and he's cleared the board.
You suck, so there we go.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
You're the closest target. Come on, who else am I gonna?
This is true. You don't want to start making arguments with production. They're the people who make you look pretty and sound lovely.
Oh, that's quite a tall order.
You are quite tall.
Thanks.
So Boarcontrol is just once again trying to build up a board here and begging the question of TingTing, well, can you keep on removing what I am plopping onto the board? No option for lethal from TingTing though. It's just a case of he can put stuff in the way. He could certainly trade off his 5-5 into the 4-4, get off the 3-3, just leave Ire on the board and then put some taunts. But taunts are contested by Devolve.
Yeah, that's true. It's still not too bad. I might have preferred the Wrath there. I suppose fitting in the hero power as well doesn't actually kill anything extra off. But in terms of damage now, if we don't see any taunts off the Devolve, that would be 5 at 6, 11. Still, to be honest, not really that close to lethal.
No, I think Boarcontrol is struggling a little bit now. And look at that lonely spreading plague that he got from Lorwakacho earlier that, as we rightly said, has just done absolutely nothing. But now it could be used to buy him a little bit of time.
That's true. And maybe there is the possibility that it just can't all be dealt with in one turn, especially as the Devolve can come down here. Oof, Rattling Rascal is very good for Boarcontrol, summoning a 5-5 for him when it dies. But there's some other options that are pretty good for TingTing, like the Patient Assassin as well.
Yeah, the Patient Assassin is, of course, going to deal with one of these 1-5s very comfortably. But you're completely right. If there isn't a full clear from TingTing, then Boarcontrol's tokens looking good for that Bloodlust.
Oof. So on this turn, for the kind of most defensive play I can see, something like Lich King into Wrath allows you to clear off an extra Scarab in combination with the Thrallmar Farseer or the Rattling Rascal. Clears up most of the board, puts a big taunt in the way. You've still got a respectable board. As long as you're not dying to Bloodlust, I think you're happy with pretty much most plays.
Yep, I think with the Wrath, you can clear off all of the 1/5s. The most you're going to leave on the board is 3 minions. And if you drop a Lich King, as you said, then you're going to be very comfortable here.
I guess, yeah, you don't even have to go for the Wrath.
Yeah, this works perfectly fine. And TingTing just constantly getting control of this board. And yes, okay, Boarcontrol keeps refilling it, but there has been answer after answer, and these answers are only getting bigger as well in the likes of the Lich King now, which can also provide answers to a board. Of course, deal 3 damage to all enemies is something that could really be detrimental to Boarcontrol.
I just feel so bad for Boarcontrol because I think he went about this matchup in all the right ways, keeping the the Primal Fin Totem at the start to try and give him a decent early game advantage, maybe bait a Wrath out from his opponent. And then in the mid game, he kept Doppelgangster, got the Evolve, which is, you know, kind of lucky, but he kept half of the combo to get that rolling. So I think he had the right idea of strong mid-game dominance, and he had a really big Evolve on turn 5, or on turn 6, sorry, on turn 5 with the coin. But it was just met with a Spreading Plague, which, again, is just too much.
Yeah, and he had a chance with the Lawwalker Cho there. We were thinking that maybe there was going to be a lack of removal from the Druid, but in the end he does fall, and he's now 2-1 down to TingTing, who just has his Mage left. And my good friend Darok here begged the question of what kind of Mage are we going to see? Are we going to see the Tempo variant? Are we going to see the Control variant? Well, it's going to be going up against a Shaman and a Rogue. If it were me, I think I'd prefer to have the Control variant in that instance, but maybe you'd prefer the Tempo variant.
I think as Boarcontrol, you're kind of sitting here crossing your fingers and praying for the Tempo variant.
Yeah, as in TingTing would prefer that.
Right,
yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, sorry, I definitely agree with you then.
Yep.
Boarcontrol, for the Shaman at least, it's such a bad matchup against the Control Mage, and you can have a really good shot against the aggro decks if you get your early anti-aggro tools. In this particular matchup though, I guess you're kind of looking for the same game plan, keeping even to a head on the board at the start, and it's a pretty good hand to get that going with for Boarcontrol.
Yeah, TingTing can reply now with the Mana Worm. Of course, he's going to be looking for Kirin Tor Mage into Secret, which will be, well, disgusting as it is. Otherwise, it's a pretty slow hand he has. All of his top-end minions, of course, the Cabal Crystal Runner can drop down if he's to play the Secrets. But certainly not the early game you'd hope for. For Boarcontrol, however, picking up that Firefly, really big.
Yeah, this allows him to kill off the Mana Worm right now, but he's thinking at the moment, do I want to do that? If I go into... if I just kill this off with the hero power and I see Arcanologist next turn, that's not too bad. I can answer with Shaku. If I kill it off and leave with the Breath of Sindragosa and play a Firefly, if my opponent plays Arcanologist, I'm not actually in that much of a better position. The 1-2 and the 1-1 still trade pretty badly into it. But I guess he's thinking, if my opponent plays an Arcanologist when I have nothing on board, that's too bad of a situation.
I like him ignoring the Mana Worm here as well.
Okay.
Saying, I don't mind if it becomes a 2-1 or a 3-1. I can just kill it with my hero power next turn if needs be, or I can use one of these 1-1s. I'll get the damage in now.
Right.
Arcane Explosion, huh? Do you prefer that, or do you prefer... Yeah.
I think it's too important to secure early game board control. There's not too much damage, burst damage I should say, sorry, in the Rogue's deck. Boar saying, how can he get that kind of RNG? Clearly showing that was probably the right decision.
I think Boarcontrol's happy with that. It looks like anyway. No, wrong emotion. Actually,
the other one.
The very annoyed one that happens.
Right.
Quite a lot when you play
other card games.
I don't know what those are.
Never heard of them.
Nope.
Not here.
Nuh-uh. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, boy. I've lost it now, haven't I?
Completely off the handle.
Off the chain.
So, Boar here taking a really aggressive line of play. The Tar Creeper kind of doing its main game plan in this matchup, which is not to protect your own face from minions, it's from damage and minions, sorry. It's to protect your other minions, allow you to go face. This is such a high priority target removal. But there's actually a fair few options to kill it off as TingTing, because you know he got a secret on the previous turn. And you know he's got the coin if you've been keeping track. If he has a Medivh Valet anywhere in hand, that thing is dead. You can, I guess, assume he doesn't have a Frostbolt, but you haven't really tested out the Frostbolt. So I think this might be a little bit all-in from Boar here.
And you've got to remember, there's a lot on the line for these players. I mean, of course, it's not just reputation. It's not about just going 2-0 up. You're playing for organizations now. They've signed for organizations. They've got contracts. We don't know what those contracts are, of course. We don't know whether they're getting paid or what their sponsor deals are. Very important you have a good contract man. Shout out to my contract man, Rahul. He is...
You're doing God's work.
Yeah, he's the legal man for me. And,
right.
He makes sure everything works well. So hopefully Boarcontrol and TingTing have similar people in their lives.
Hopefully.
To secure them good deals with these sponsors and these organizations. And it is great to see more organizations coming into Hearthstone. Of course, we have seen a few organizations leave Hearthstone, some quite big ones lately, and people are begging the question of why are they doing so. And yeah, that question's up in the air, but certainly for UK Hearthstone, I'm glad to see all these players getting on Orcs.
Exactly, it's making room for the smaller teams, which, as you said, it's not particularly good for the more well-known Hearthstone players, but for the smaller guys, as we see from a lot of the players in the ESL Premiership starting to make a name for themselves, it's fantastic to start joining onto these organizations.
And we'll touch more upon that later, because I have more things I want to talk about, but we should probably discuss the actual game that's going on in front of us, as Boarcontrol has put a lot of pressure onto TingTing early on here. And this is awful for TingTing.
It really is.
Because you're going to be facing, what, 10 damage next turn? If not more. You don't know what's in the hand of Boarcontrol.
I mean, it looks like lethal from Boarcontrol. Obviously, the counter spell is up, so it will only be 1 damage off of lethal. But then at that point, like, it's so tough to lose. You can... I guess there is the potential for going into coin bone mare, so you do need to be afraid of that as well.
So if TingTing doesn't trade into this elemental, this Tar Creeper here, is it lethal then? Because you can Toxin into Geyser. Or Geyser, should I say? I get told off when I say Geyser.
I think Geyser.
Geyser?
That's what I'd say.
Or a Geyser.
Geyser.
Bit of flame Geyser. Is he going to trade in? That's actually going to be a big question. Doesn't look like he... Okay, yes. Gets there in the end.
Well, he goes for it, so he's going to survive. On 1 health, any kind of cheap spell generated from the Shaku in order to get rid of the counterspell in lieu of these higher damage options. Potion of Polymorph, that's game.
There we have it. That gets rid of counterspell. You can deal 3-4 plus 4 damage from hand as well.
Yep.
But Boarcontrol is going to be working this one out and saying, well, what is the secret? He knows, though, well, he should know if it's a counterspell, then of course he wins this game. And he will tie it up to 2-2. There's the information, and that's going to be game. And we go into another Game 5, Darok.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable, Jeff. Today's been amazing, actually. I love it when these games go to Game 5. It's certainly with Hearthstone at the moment, I won't lie. My personal experience with the meta is meh.
You haven't been having a lot of success.
I've not been having a lot of fun or success. However, when it comes to tournament play, which is something I don't get to do particularly as much with the job I work in, watching it, the meta is certainly better than the previous meta.
It's kind of weird because it's pretty set. Like, there are the best decks at the moment in Priest, Druid, and Rogue. That's fairly well established at this point, but they kind of have interesting interactions. It's not like a rock, paper, scissors meta quite so much. So if you do like the decks that are at the top, it's definitely an enjoyable meta in terms of tournaments, at least. Yeah,
and it's nice to see that every deck, well, every class really has something that's viable. Like, genuinely, for the first time, we have 9 classes that could be played at any given time. Of course, we have the stronger ones. We were mentioning organizations earlier, and I think it's very different nowadays to how it used to be in esports. It used to be that you needed, realistically, an organization to maybe get a free trip to an event. But a lot of esports events now, if you qualify, you get paid. They fly you out, they pay for your hotels and stuff. So sponsors are there like, well, we don't even have to pay for anything. We will literally just give you a t-shirt, and you will look pretty in front of us, and that's all you have to do to represent us. And that's a good place for both sponsor and player, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation. You get to look good in T-shirts, and you get paid to go to LAN finals.
That sounds nice.
It does sound nice. Back when I was an esports player, I had to pay out my own pocket until I then got a sponsor who would give us like 30 quid. Buy us a meal every day, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
Cheers.
Thanks.
When I was on Infused once, and Infused are a massive organisation now, and back then they just gave us a T-shirt.
Ugh.
Shows how worthy I was.
Yeah. Well, they clearly built the whole brand off of your back.
Physically, yes.
Literally.
My back is quite small though, so I don't know if that's really a good idea to build anything on. Maybe Lego.
Little Lego building.
Little Lego building on your back. Here we are then, game number 5 of the final series of the day here, the ESL Premiership, powered by Windows 10 and Alienware. And we have Boarcontrol versus TingTing. And we have Shaman versus Mage. We were saying that Boarcontrol was going to be hoping that he was going against Tempo Mage, which he is. I wonder who's going to get the early start here. Of course, it being a Tempo Mage, you're not going to see the Volcanic Potions realistically in TingTing's deck.
There's always the option to get that kind of stuff off of the... Oh my god, I'm completely blanking on the name of the card. Help me out. The glyph.
Primordial
Off
glyph.
the glyph, the primordial glyph. Wow, I've played that card so many times. Apologies.
Okay.
You can get those kind of cards being a glyph gamer, but it's much, much less likely to come about. And it's kind of going to be necessary because we are going to see a very strong pull ahead from Boarcontrol in the early turns. Jade Claws is fantastic here. Kill that off. Get yourself decidedly ahead on board. Even the Kirintor Mage into Spellbender. It's really nice to get that Spellbender down just to reduce the cost of the Cabal Crystal Runner, but it's really not going to be doing all too much for probably quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, what are we going to see? Maybe a Jade Lightning going on to the Spellbender potentially.
I think that's about it.
But certainly this Kirintor Mage is just going to get gobbled up by the Jade Claws plus one of these 1/1s if it is put down. But TingTing wants to contest the board earlier rather than later, and maybe with the same thought process as us of this Spellbender's not really going to be doing anything just yet.
Yeah. Oh, even better option to go for Boarcontrol than the second Jade Claws. He's now going to be making so many pesky things every single turn, and because he's got that Bloodlust in the hand, it is going to have to be dealt with from TingTing. And he just doesn't have it. At the moment, like Kirintor Mage into Counterspell, maybe you can dispel something small, or maybe you can dispel something big, sorry, like a Jade Lightning, or maybe a Bloodlust if your opponent falls into it, but it's much more likely to hit something fairly inconsequential.
See, now, I would have been tempted to play Spellbender. If you're worried about a Jade Lightning, I think I would have been okay with Spellbender there, and then you've got Counterspell the following turn in case you're worried about Bloodlust.
Yep.
But there is also the argument that maybe there isn't a spell apart from Bloodlust in your opponent's hand.
That's fair.
I don't know.
So if you are expecting Counterspell, do you think you are more attached to the Maelstrom Portal or the Devolve in this matchup?
Well, I think the fact that you can use the Maelstrom Portal to clean up something here, I'd go for the Maelstrom Portal and just say, well, if it gets burnt, it gets burnt. But Boarcontrol actually doesn't care. I think the Devolve is more important for me, potentially, especially because you know Tide Hydras are a thing, and cutting one of those down could be very nice.
And I know Boarcontrol isn't the kind of player to fall into these traps with counterspells and things like that. Now that he... well, no, he doesn't even know that it's not Mirror Entity because he didn't actually play a minion on that turn. He is overloaded for one, so he won't even be able to maybe fall into the trap and play out the Bloodlust. But I imagine he's definitely going to be testing the secrets here, starting off with the spell that he thinks is least important to him.
Yeah, which I imagine would be the Maelstrom. It does have Jade Lightning now as well, so both of those are going to get gobbled up by secrets in the end. Yes, oh, okay. He thinks that the Devolve is less important than the Maelstrom Portal, which I can understand. I mean, realistically, if a lot of Cabal Crystal Runners come out, devolving a 6-drop into a 5-drop that they've played for 2 mana isn't really that great.
I mean, with the spell damage as well, it does a really good job of clearing this up. clearing off his Murlocs as well because he knows the board is going to be completely repopulated once again. Bloodlust is completely live on the following turn, able to push 7 times 3, 21 damage, plus the, 4, 5, 7?
I think.
Yep, lethal on board on the following turn, unless something is done very drastically, and Hydra on its own is just not going to do it.
No, to survive, TingTing, I think, has to ping one of these 1/1s, and that would keep him alive by 2.
Yep.
So I think you got to do it. Got to go for it.
But then again, this is obviously with cast division. Maybe
Yes.
TingTing is thinking, if I am going to win this game, I have to just pretend there is no Bloodlust, because if that comes down, I'm just going to lose anyway. I can't clear the board on this turn. Even if I get rid of one of the minions, it's going to be 18 damage just from the actual Bloodlust itself. But then again, even if you do expect that you do have to pray there's no Bloodlust, you can't really go with the Bittertide Hydra because that just amps up the amount of damage your opponent can do so drastically.
Well, unless TingTing picks up maybe a mirror image here. Oh, a Frostbolt. Okay, there we go. That just about keeps him alive.
Goes for the 2/2 to try and mitigate damage, I guess. So we can just see a double whammy here from Boarcontrol in pushing 18, 20, 22, 23 damage to the face. Well, pushing most of that to the face, I should say, sorry, while clearing up some of the stuff his opponent is playing anyway. Or, I mean, maybe you even just go for all of it, and the Jade Lightning pretty much ensures lethal on the following turn, unless a counterspell comes down.
Of course, it doesn't get affected by Spellbender, which is the common mistake that a lot of people can make, because it's going towards face, it's not going towards a minion.
Who would make a mistake like that?
I don't know, Darren.
Some kind of a bloomin' idiot, I'd wager.
I imagine, yeah.
Probably.
I have never done that in my history of Hearthstone casting, I promise you. Was it you that told me I was an idiot for doing that once? I think it was. But I was just educating, you know?
Yeah.
To someone who's new to the game, you know?
Yeah. Playing the fool.
Playing the fool, as I so comfortably do in my life. But you're right, Boarcontrol wanted to clear up the board rather than just sending all of this face.
Yeah. I think this is probably the play, because if you go all in on killing your opponent and a counterspell does come up, maybe some kind of a weird scenario can come down, but either way, it was looking very, very good for Boarcontrol indeed. Playing the Hydra here loses you the game instantly. Kirantor Mage, the Fireball is massive overkill on anything. I don't really think there's anything that can be done here.
No, you can ping off a 1/1, Fireball a 1/2, and actually that keeps you alive.
Well, just the ping of the 1 would keep you alive for the moment.
It does keep you alive, but how do you win the game, I guess?
Of course, yeah.
Ping a 1/1 Fireball to face, put them down to 14. Still not going to happen. Most likely what we're going to see here is a victory for Boarcontrol, who has come back from 2-1 down and should be looking at a 2-0 scoreline in the Swiss, which he will be very happy with, especially after his performance last season, where he struggled early on and he exited the tournament. But it's not game over just yet. Of course, rolling spell damage would finish this game off. Second Jade Lightning doesn't quite do it, but it will next turn.
It all but guarantees lethal on the following turn. Yeah, I really don't think there's anything TingTing can do here. And this is great for Boarcontrol. You know, after such fantastic Series 1 and 2 in the UK Premiership and slightly struggling last time, this really feels like he is back on track. Streaming all the time, great content coming out from him. He always feels like he's really on point with his talk of the meta, and clearly showing he's got what it takes here.
Boarcontrol is saying it doesn't matter there. He realised that if he could have had a roll for lethal.
Sure.
He didn't roll for some reason, but he said it doesn't matter, I still win. But now we'll see TingTing just finishing the game by killing himself with a Fireball. Boarcontrol wins the last game of the series, a shake of the head. Clearly he feels like he didn't play that one optimally, but he will be the one who wins, and he should walk away from this series very happy rather than concerned. But it was always a sign of a good player who can look back at a win and say, these are the things that I have done wrong.
Yeah, he will definitely be, he's the kind of player who